another Read Through 2020 lesson. Read Through 2020, for those of you that may not have already heard the great news, is our reading plan for the year. And the beautiful thing about our reading plan is that you can join it any day that you would like and just start at your day one, wherever it might be. One of the things that we're going to be utilizing tonight, and of course, there's always ways around certain things if you don't have certain things, but tonight I want to share with you kind of an oldie. It's an oldie but a goodie, created here at the Bright Bible. And it is a template for ladies and a template for guys here. But we have two guys templates, different guys haircuts, very basic. They're supposed to be basic because the idea is to be able to utilize them as just a starting point for anything you might be working with. And then we also have 3 pages of ladies templates as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention and I have this beautiful dot paper which we use for lettering sometimes, and so my people have dots on their faces. However, we're going to not fear. We're going to show you how to use those. We are in Luke tonight, Luke chapter 1, and this is a pretty cool section of the Bible because it's the starting point of Jesus. How cool is that, right? It's where we talk, the angel comes and visits the Lord. The angel Gabriel also comes and visits Elizabeth. All sorts of great stuff going on here. But the passage of scripture that we're focusing on tonight is verse 57 through 66. So I'm going to go ahead and read that for you right now. The birth of John the Baptist. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. And her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown great mercy to her. And they rejoiced with her. And on the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child. And they would have called him Zachariah after his father. But his mother answered, "No, he shall be called John." And they said to her, "None of your relatives is called by this name." And they made signs to the father, I'll explain that in a second, inquiring what wanted him to be called. And he asked for a writing tablet and wrote, "His name is John." And they all wondered. And immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue loosened, and he spoke, blessing God. And fear came on all their neighbors, and all these things were talked about through the hill country of Judea. And all who heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, "What then will this child be?" Ooh, they knew he was important, for the hand of the Lord was with him. Now, it talks here about making signs to the Father. Now, why is that? Well, when you read over here at the beginning part, you'll find out that Mr. Zachariah was a little lacking in faith. When Gabriel came and says, "You've got to name this kid Jonathan," or John, he says, "No way." So Gabriel is telling Elizabeth, you're old, you're past bearing years, but you are going to have a child. And Zachariah said to the angel, "How shall I know this? For I am old, and my wife is advanced in years." And the angel answered him, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and to bring you this good news. And behold, you will be made silent and unable to speak until the day that these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their time." And the people were waiting for Zechariah, and they were wondering at his delay in the temple. And when he came out, he was unable to speak to them. And they were having to make signs. They were signing to him. They were trying to figure out what to say. And so here we are. This is being fulfilled. Elizabeth is pregnant. She's ready to give birth. And now finally, he believes. He supports his wife's decision. He writes on this tablet. His name is John. So I wanted to look at these templates that we have, and I want to talk about using them And of course, I am working tonight. I kind of been flip-flopping back and forth in which Bibles I've been using. I actually have 3. I used a smaller one last week. But I'm going to use the full page on this, and I think you could do this page full page, even if you're in your regular journaling Bible. But this is an interleaved Bible. Definitely you could do this in a variety of ways. I'm going to use it full page. You could do half. You could just focus on Elizabeth, or you could just focus in this case, I'm really focusing on Zachariah. Because to me, this was all about that turn of faith. Don't we sometimes catch ourselves in a lack of faith and a lack of trust, and it takes us time, right? Thank goodness the Lord did not punish him with silence for the rest of his life. I mean, if you're asking me, the fact that he was punished with silence during pregnancy is really not that bad of a deal for Elizabeth, right? I'm just teasing. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I've got a few things I want to talk about what I have out. Templates printed off of the Bright Bible. I've got some letter stamps. I liked these letter stamps. You don't have to use letter stamps. You could use stickers for what we're going to do. You could handwrite. I think it's all acceptable. Letter stamps. I've got some stencils as an option. I'm going to give you 2 options for your background. Stencils and gelatos, or stencils and colored pencils, or we're going to do a cool trick with washi tape. I also have some scrap paper. We're going to use this to kind of clothe Zachariah. I'm going to need to get some flowery stuff, I think, for Elizabeth, because I'm going to put both of them in here. And then here's a cool option. Now, this is like one of those extra things. If you have it, great. If not, if not. This is sticker paper. Okay, so I can peel back. This is a whole sheet of sticker paper, and we always recommend sticker paper here at the Bright Bible for you to have a pack of it, because when we do printables, you can just print it out like a regular sheet of paper, have your designs, cut them out. Some of you may even have fancy cutters, but then you got stickers. How cool is that? So it's super, super awesome. What we're going to do, though, is some freehand drawing with some speech bubbles. And I may have a cup, I don't know. We might have to make them a little bit bigger. We're going to play around with this as we get going. So what we're going to focus on here is really bringing to life this idea of the he said, she said, he said, about they're going against all tradition. They're going against everybody's thinking that people are like, wait a second, John? Where's this name coming from? Well, it was coming from the Lord. And we know that pregnancy is aligned with the pregnancy of Christ. That those 2 babies knew each other even in the womb, right? Like they had a connection. There was a reason that God put John the Baptist and created this being here alongside of Jesus. And those 2, their relationship, the baptism later. I mean, there's so many things interconnecting these guys. He was super important to the bigger picture. All right, so let's get started on our background. First things first, I want to just go crazy coloring this. I like going crazy. I'm going crazy coloring this. I'm going to take the printable here that I did not need. I'm just going to use that as my backdrop tonight. So there's a few things that we can do. And one of them would just be to use our stencils and our gelatos. And I can tell you right now, hold on one second. I gotta reach. Forgot to get those gelatos out. Now, I am a fan. I'm a huge fan. If you're new to Bible journaling, distress crayons, gelatos, super cool. Super duper duper recommend them. Okay? So, I'm going to grab a few colors out here. And then we also want some little blender sticks, okay? So the blenders that you guys can get will either be they could be either like a little finger blender. This is obviously very purplish. You can rub the material, the gelato on the end and use that, or I like to use these bigger sticks. Yes, they're right here. Hold on one second. I was really hoping I did not need to go far. Okay. So in my little jar here, I have these cool wooden handled sticks. You can get these. They're Jim Holtz. I can never remember if he's a Tim or a Jim. But mixed media materials especially. Joann's has a lot of their stuff, I believe, still. But these pads just are interchangeable because of the Velcro. Beautiful. I also love that they are a circle design, so they blend nicely. We're gonna utilize these. I'll get a green and an orange. I don't have no idea what I'm gonna do with colors here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just show you an option. So an option is to take your colors here and use them dry. These can be used wet or dry, but I love to apply onto the pad. If you're a Bright Bible guru, you've been with us, you know I love this method. This is one of my faves. It's super easy. And then I can just kind of go through here and kind of just do this little twisting. And these are little punchellas or whatever they call these things. They're so weird. Circles. The little circle babies. I think they're called punchellas. They have some fancy name. It's like the sequence. It's what's left out of the sequence. All right, so this looks kind of like a honeycomb. I kind of like it. So I'm just going to keep doing some of this. And then I also want to show you another method that you could use. We might just kind of do them together, but using some washi tape. So right now, the only thing that I even care about is just background. That's it. Because I'm going to utilize sticker over the top, and I'm going to utilize the cut paper templates over the top. Now, you could trace the templates, the people templates. You could draw out things. You would just have to be a little more careful doing your background. You'd have to be more intentional. So that's totally up to you and what your method is. So what if I just want to make things a little crazier? I want to just layer the background. Well, one of the things that you can do is utilize your washi tape, not just for what it is, right? If we wanted to use washi tape to decorate the background, great. But what if we use this to kind of create its own stencil or its own design? Use this almost like a stained glass effect, okay? This is like using or creating with a giant stencil. So you can cut this off, you can move these around. You can just create any sort of design that comes to mind and then do the sames over the top, but maybe without the punchella. We're probably going to layer this a few times because I want to just, basically I'm just muddying up my background, but I'm just using some fun techniques. Sometimes we don't think about using a material for a purpose that it's not intended for. So in this case, washi tape is not really intended to be like a blackout, but if you think about it, it's like painter's tape, right? If we lay it down, it's going to block out those lines. And what's really cool is it will probably block out some of our circles for us as well. So that's probably a good for now. Maybe one more. Do something like this. Okay. And then I'm going to take another color. I think this time I'm going to go, what do I want to do here? I think I'm just going to stick with kind of like the greens, but this is a more tealy green. And I'm not done. That first layer was just to kind of show you. So I'm going to be okay kind of going a little darker. And now what I'm going to do is kind of come over this whole thing. And I'll go back in there with some more circles. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. But now I can really play around with this background. So just layering gelatos to make a messy background. Just colorful, fun, something different. Some of these places you can see where I'm kind of leaving some of the circles showing. So I'm really just focusing on where those lines are. And I can even have it be a little lighter in sections as well. Ooh, there we go. All right. So that's going to give me another layer of effect. And you can just keep doing this. You can do this as much as your heart's desire. You could take this off. So we could take these off and do another layer of that, or we can do another layer of washi, or another layer of stencil. So we can just keep playing and having fun. So just always consider different options with your washi. So this was just an idea of a different background, something fun, something different, and a use for all of your washi, right? I know that I have a lot of washi. I can always spare some of the stuff that I'm kind of overusing. Now what I'm going to talk about here are these little templates. So I'm going to kind of put this stuff aside for a second here. And let's talk about these templates. Now I am trying to think through here. I'm kind of thinking I might use her for Elizabeth. This is just one of the 3 pages of women's templates. So I'll go ahead and cut that one out. Now the cool thing about this is that you could use them just as they are, or you can trace them from the back side. I'm not going to do that. And I'm actually going to, when we're all done with this, I'm going to redo these because unfortunately I printed them at the last second and realized I had the dot the dot paper on there. So we don't want her to have freckles. But so what I'm going to do here is just kind of cut her out, just kind of rough cut first. But now that I have this girl, I can either add clothing the way that we're going to do tonight with paper, or if I was drawing her, I could also add in things that aren't here. So even if it's something not existing on this template, you could add in, a headpiece, or you could add in a shawl or a butterfly in her hair or a flower. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted. So it's kind of, these are just to try to give you guys a confidence booster, a starting point for drawing these people. And the beautiful thing about these people is that they are very basic. They are not intended to have lots of details. I mean, of course, they could be, the jumping off point for a painted face or added in, details, but they're just supposed to be more of an implied look. And that's why I really like them, because they have so much flexibility then with what you're going to do. So here is my Elizabeth. And let's see, I could either use this guy here, which was really like my Jesus guy. That's what I call him. He's my Jesus guy. Or I also had this guy with the beard. I think I'm going to do this for Zachariah. I'm going here. I'm going with the beard guy. He's got some cool wispy hair. So whichever, yeah, that looks good. I think that's going to work. So use these guys. I really love using them. We used to do these with the kids and make like bookmarks and have them talk about how God created them, and they get to color their own bookmark. That was one of my very favorite lessons. I'm sure it's posted. Maybe Coach Beth will find it in the old lessons and post it for us with one of our Technique Tuesdays, because it's really fun. It's fun to do. And I know even when I was doing it, my boys created multiple bookmarks for themselves just because they enjoyed putting it together. And just a colorful background, color this guy in, maybe make a face, use some very simple words. It's a great lesson. Okay. I haven't pulled these guys out in a long time, so I'm kind of excited about this. Now, once I have these guys cut out, the next thing that I would do is color them in with colored pencils. So I'm going to just grab a couple colored pencils to give you the idea. This is one of them. So what I've got for us here are just some little pieces. I know this is probably not like Bible time material, but it was like as manly as I could find. So I'm just going to grab something here. Let's see what kind of colors. I might go more of this greeny. This looks very mannish. I'm going green. All right. Rip a little piece of this out. All right. So then what I'm going to do here is actually just kind of cut around this area. Now, if you want to make a shirt collar and do all that stuff, you go right ahead. I am not. I am keeping this super simple because I don't have time for that. Okay. So there's my little piece for the neck. And of course I would color his neck, but that will give him that shirt. So there's him. And I would do the same thing for Elizabeth. Okay, so I would color, clothe, glue together, right? And then what I want to do is to make these speech bubbles. And I'm doing a play off he said, she said. Okay? Now the good thing is that by the time we get to this part of the story, there's no arguing. Because Zachariah has basically had zipped lips for the last 9 months. And he finally comes to understanding that this child was not conceived of his own doing, but of the Holy Spirit. And it was straight from the Lord. So I am using these wonderful little letter stickers. Now, or stamps. These are the acrylic, little acrylic stamps. You just pull them off, line them up. Now, what you need to remember is that when you take them off, so like let's look at the K. When you take them off, they're going to be backwards, right? Yes. So they do the job of being backwards, but what's really easy to accidentally do is to start over here. So when you stamp it, your word will still be backwards, but backwards. Does that make sense? So you want to start on the right side and work to the left when you're stamping. And what I would strongly suggest is that you flip it over, make sure it's correct, or stamp it onto something else if you don't have the see-through, but of course usually you would have these see-throughs, and then give it a try. So let's go ahead and just give this guy a whirl. I just thought it would be fun to use something other than hand lettering. I do a lot of hand lettering, and I just like to switch it up sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and this will actually probably help me to base where or how big I want these to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just slap this down. Okay, so there's my John. That's the first John. I think what I actually would like to do is to do another John in another color and have that be Mama's John. A little John boy. Okay, let's use this cool, put that over here. And then what I'm going to do is really to reflect back onto what the scripture says. I just liked how it was worded. They both said it a little bit differently. So I'm going to get my little trusty highlighter out here. Remind myself what it says. But the mother answered, "No, he shall be called John." And then the father says, "His name is John." So that's how I'm going to write these. Okay? But first, I want to try to ballpark that these are going to fit on here. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Boom. She may have to be up. So I may make this pretty crazy here. I may have to go up. Let's do this with a pencil first. Always use a pencil first. It's like you're measuring, right? Measure twice. Cut once. So I'm going to do kind of a crazy like this. Might be too big, but we'll try it. And then I'll do a smaller one here. Okay, so I'm kind of giving myself those speech bubbles. Now, if these are not the right size, that's okay. I can adjust. So what I'm going to do is first cut these out because I want to adjust before I start adding in other letters, which I am going to write in. So I'll cut these little speech bubbles out. Now remember, I'm using sticker paper, which is super cool because they'll stand right back out. I can just go crazy in my background and then will stand right out on that background. So I don't have to worry about fussing around any objects or keeping anything cool. I'm sure you could also find speech bubble stickers that like already exist. I have a feeling that that's a thing. I'm sure you could find them. You could also, if worst case scenario, you did not have sticker paper, you could still do this method, but what I would do is just plan out those spaces with a piece of paper, and when you're decorating your background, you would just kind of use them as like a blackout area. So just kind of, yeah, this will definitely work. This will definitely work right about there. So it's the he said, she said right there. Okay. So now what I'll do, I'm not going to worry about these guys because I want to get them corrected before I finish my page. But here is what I'm going to pull in there. So he shall be called John is what Mom says. Okay. So he shall be, and I'm going to go C-A-L-L. Can you guys hear the puppy? He is not happy with me right now because he knows I'm in here having fun without him. He shall be called John. I'm going to spruce that up a little bit with color in the John, but that'll be good for that one. So that's what Elizabeth says. And then Dad says his And then name. Woo. Name is John. Love that. I love how she says it, that this is what he should be called. And Dad is like, that is his name. No arguing. He came to his senses. I love that. Okay, so what I would do to finish this up is a little bit of coloring here. I also think it would be really fun. Let's do this really quickly too. And then I'll get these pasted on. I'm going to move my guys to the side. But here's another thing we could do with our scrap paper and our gelatos. So you can see that it's a very stark edge. So one thing we could add here is a little bit of color to the edge. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to get some blue here on this one. I've got kind of a periwinkle color. Let's see if this will show up. But just something light around the edge, okay? Like this. You can just kind of roughen up the edge going around that sticker. It'll give it a nice little haze. Isn't that fun? So that'll add a little bit of extra color layered on top there. And of course you could always color in your lettering or leave it that way too. But we'll take this off now and get that put in there. If I can stick it off. Yeah, so see, this is just going to pull apart. I'll get my guy in here to make sure I don't do it too cray-cray. Bring this right here. Lay it down, and bada boom, bada bang. That one's ready. Let me zip Elizabeth over here as well. I'm going to use a different color for Elizabeth. Of course, I'm going to go back to that purple I used kind of in the background there. Let's see if we can find it here. There we go. Get that all set up. Same thing. Ooh, that's a little more red than I was expecting. Whoopsies. That's all right. Just some extra color. There we go. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing. And I think it's kind of fun. They're going to overlap a little bit. That's going to be super fun. Makes it look a little more candid. Candid. Ooh, these stickers get you. But they are good. I really like this because of the fact, sorry, I'm off camera a little bit here. Because of the fact that the sticker paper is not at all thin. It is a nice heavy duty sticker, and I love that because it is a little bit easier once you get a good grab. It goes on really easy, but the other thing is it's thick enough that you're not going to see through. If it was really thin sticker paper, you would see through it. And so, yeah, so I think that's going to be super fun. And there we are. So it's a he said, she said page. We're super glad that Zachariah came to his wits, and we are so thankful for the relationship that we can learn about and really take away, not only between Mary and Elizabeth, but also Jesus and the very important John the Baptist. So thank you guys for joining me again. Take care and blessings.